When did you realize your parents were playing favorites? It took me 28 years to realize my parents never loved us equally, just differently enough to keep me quiet. I grew up thinking we were the perfect all-American family, suburban Ohio, backyard barbecues, family game nights, those picture-perfect Christmas cards where everyone smiles like we've never argued a day in our lives. But if you looked close enough, if you really looked, you'd notice one tiny thing. There was always someone in the center of the frame, and it was never me. That person was my sister, Maddie, 3 years younger, blonde, bubbly, chaotic in the kind of way people call adorable, the type who could crash dad's truck and somehow end up getting ice cream afterward, because she's just a kid, she didn't mean it. I was the other one, the responsible daughter, the one who did her homework, followed rules, cleaned up after everyone, and still got grounded if Maddie cried. I used to joke that I was the family's unpaid babysitter, except no one laughed harder than my parents. When I was 11, Maddie broke Mom's favorite vase, a blue glass one from her college days. I watched her do it. I watched it fall, shatter, and heard her gasp. When Mom came in, tears welling up, Maddie said, "Kayla did it." I remember standing there, mouth open, waiting for Mom to say, "That's not true," but she didn't. She just looked at me with that disappointed frown, the one that made me feel like I'd committed a felony. I tried to explain, but Mom sighed. "Honey, you're older. You should have been watching her." I learned something that day. In our house, truth didn't matter. Peace did, and peace meant Maddie never faced consequences. That pattern didn't stop with childhood. It just got more sophisticated. When Maddie got bad grades, Mom said, "She's creative, not book smart like you." When she stayed out too late, Dad said, "She's just young." But when I came home 5 minutes past curfew, I was irresponsible. I didn't fight it back then. I told myself every family has its favorites. Maybe it was just a phase. Maybe I was too sensitive. But then high school hit, and it became obvious that Maddie wasn't just their favorite, she was their pride. Every time she sang at a school assembly, Mom cried in the front row like she was watching the Grammys. When I got into the National Honor Society, I barely got a good job. The worst part, I didn't even resent Maddie then. I admired her. I thought maybe if I worked harder, earned more praise, I could balance it out. By the time I turned 17, I had a full scholarship offer for college. I remember sitting at dinner, excited, telling them about it, waiting for that spark of pride. Dad smiled politely, said, "That's great, sweetheart," then turned to Maddie and asked about her boyfriend. Just like that, conversation shifted. My big moment turned into background noise. That night, I cried quietly in my room, not because of what they said, but because I realized they didn't even notice how much it hurt. After graduation, I left for college 3 states away. I thought distance might help. Maybe they'd finally see how much I did for them once I wasn't around. Maybe absence would make them appreciate me. But all it did was make space for Maddie to shine brighter. I'd call home, ask how things were. Mom would say, "Oh, you know, Maddie's keeping us busy. She just got hired at that cute boutique downtown." I'd tell her about my exams, about my part-time job. She'd barely respond. Then she'd add, "You've always been so independent, Kayla. We never have to worry about you." And that right there, that was their excuse for everything that would come later. But back then, I still didn't see it. I thought love meant being selfless, patient, understanding. I thought maybe if I just stayed quiet, kept being the strong one, it would eventually pay off. It didn't. By the time I graduated, Maddie had already dropped out of community college, gotten engaged, and was living back home. My parents threw her an engagement party that could have passed for a wedding. I showed up with a small gift and a bigger smile, pretending it didn't sting that they'd never once thrown a graduation party for me. That night, while cleaning up paper plates and beer cans from their backyard, I heard Mom tell Aunt Lisa, "Maddie just needs a little help finding her path. Kayla was always the lucky one. She never needed us." I froze mid-step. Lucky one. It was the first time I realized my independence wasn't seen as strength. It was their excuse to give Maddie everything and me nothing. And the funny thing, that sentence would echo in my head, years later, the day everything came crashing down, when I'd find out just how far they went to keep Maddie's life comfortable at the cost of my own. But back then, I still smiled, still cleaned up, still told myself that this was normal, that some families just work like this. I had no idea how wrong I was. Because when I finally needed them, really needed them, I'd learned just how deep their favoritism ran, and it would break everything I thought I knew about love, family, and what it means to be the strong one. I always thought I could handle anything on my own. I had to. My parents made sure of that. But nothing prepared me for what happened when my body started to fail me. I was 25 when I got sick, not cold and cough sick. The kind that drains your soul, eats your savings, and makes you stare at hospital ceilings wondering if you're ever getting out. I'd been working long hours at my graphic design job, ignoring the exhaustion, the weight loss, the dizziness. Until one day I collapsed at work. Turns out I needed surgery. Urgent, costly. The kind of costly that makes you reconsider living. My insurance barely covered half. I called my parents from the hospital, voice shaking. I remember Mom's tone, sweet, concerned, rehearsed. "Oh, honey, that sounds awful. What can we do?" I told her. I didn't even ask for much. Just a loan. I'd pay them back in full. Silence. Then you know things are tight right now, sweetheart. We just refinanced for Maddie's new apartment. You're so good with money. I'm sure you'll figure something out. You'll figure something out. They hung up after promising to pray for me. So, I drained my savings. I maxed out a credit card. I worked freelance gigs between treatments, nauseous and dizzy, while my parents sent Maddie on a spa trip because she was stressed about moving. And when I recovered, barely, they never once asked how I was doing. Not once. It would have been easy to blame Maddie, but she didn't know. She just lived in her bubble, mom and dad's golden little world, where consequences never existed. She'd call sometimes, chirping about how mom and dad have been helping me with rent, and I'd smile through the pain. Then one afternoon, I got a call from Dad. Maddie had a car accident, he said, his voice trembling. My heart dropped. Is she okay? She's fine, but the car's totaled. We're thinking of taking a small loan to help her get a new one. She can't lose her job over this. I was sitting in my tiny apartment, looking at my hospital bills stacked like tombstones on the table. I wanted to scream, to ask why Maddie got a loan, and I got a prayer, but I didn't. I just said, "That's nice of you, Dad." He sighed, relieved. You've always been understanding, Kayla. We're lucky to have such a strong daughter. Strong. That word had become a curse. It was their permission slip to neglect me. Weeks later, I visited home for dinner, something I hadn't done in months. As soon as I stepped inside, I noticed the new furniture, the shiny car in the driveway, the smell of mom's cooking like nothing had changed. Maddie was there too, all smiles, wearing a necklace I'd given mom years ago. They greeted me like nothing was wrong. We ate, we laughed, we pretended. But under the surface, I felt it, that same imbalance, that same invisible weight pressing on my chest. Then, halfway through dinner, Maddie looked at me and said, "You know, Kayla, you should really lighten up. You always look like you're mad at the world." I wanted to tell her everything. I wanted to slam the table and say, "You have no idea how much I've sacrificed while you've been carried your whole life." But I didn't. I swallowed it down, because I knew if I snapped, they'd make me the villain again. After dinner, Mom pulled me aside and said softly, "Try to be patient with your sister. She's struggling." I looked her in the eyes and asked, "And what am I doing, Mom?" "Thriving." She sighed, like I was the unreasonable one. "You've always had it easier than you think." Easier. That word echoed in my head the whole drive home. When I got back to my apartment, I opened my laptop to pay another hospital bill and saw an email from my mom. Subject line, family business opportunity. Inside was a GoFundMe link for Maddie. Apparently, she wanted to start her own boutique business, and my parents were helping spread the word. I scrolled down and saw my own relatives, aunts, uncles, cousins, donating hundreds of dollars. No one had sent me a single get well card when I was in the hospital. I felt something crack inside me that night. Not rage, not jealousy, just clarity. That sharp, painful kind that strips away your excuses. It wasn't just favoritism anymore. It was betrayal, masked as love. I didn't know it yet, but that GoFundMe would be the start of the unraveling, because within a few months I'd find proof, solid, undeniable proof, that my parents had been rewriting history for years. And when I uncovered the truth, it wouldn't just change how I saw them, it would destroy every memory I thought was real. You ever get that gut feeling that something's been wrong for years, but you just didn't have the proof? That was me, sitting on my childhood bedroom floor, surrounded by boxes that smelled like dust and broken trust. It started innocently enough. Mom had asked me to stop by and help declutter the attic, she said. "We just have too many old papers lying around, honey." She made it sound like she was doing me a favor, letting me revisit memories. So I drove the 2 hours home that Saturday, thinking I'd spend a few hours sorting photo albums and maybe grab lunch after. I had no idea I was walking straight into the biggest lie my parents ever told. Upstairs, the attic was hot, cramped, filled with forgotten pieces of our happy family life, trophies, school projects, report cards. Maddie's face smiled back at me from half of them. Her cheerleader photo, her prom crown, her most spirited student sash, all perfectly preserved. My box, buried under a pile of old magazines, half crushed. I rolled my eyes, typical. But then, as I dug deeper, I found something strange, an old envelope with my name written in my mom's handwriting. It was sealed, faded, and heavier than it should have been. I opened it. Inside were bank statements from my senior year of high school. I frowned. They were tied to the college savings account my parents set up for me when I was little. I remembered how proud Dad was when he opened it. "For your future, kiddo," he'd said. But the numbers didn't make sense. Withdrawals, big ones, thousands of dollars, and the dates, all from years before I started college. I flipped through more pages, my heart pounding harder with every line. The last withdrawal, a full wipeout of the account. Amount $18,450. Purpose, vehicle purchase. My breath caught in my throat. Because that was the same year Maddie got her first car. That silver Corolla she bragged about for months, the one she said she bought herself. My hands started shaking. I went downstairs holding the papers like evidence in a crime scene. Mom was in the kitchen, cutting fruit like she didn't just commit emotional manslaughter years ago. "Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, "what's this?" She looked at the papers, her face going pale, just for a second. Then she smiled. That same brittle smile she always wore when she was cornered. Oh, those old things. Don't tell me you're still holding on to that account. That account was for my college, I said quietly. You told me there wasn't enough money when I applied. Her knife froze mid-slice. You don't understand, Kayla. Your sister needed help getting to work. We thought it was the best use of the money. The best use of my money? Her tone shifted, sharper. We did what we had to do. You had scholarships. You managed. You're stronger. There it was again. Stronger. That word that meant, you don't need us, so we don't have to care. I took a step back, my chest tightening. You didn't even tell me. She sighed, irritated now. Oh, don't be dramatic. You turned out fine, didn't you? You always make a scene over nothing. That broke something in me. Because all those years I blamed myself for struggling through college, working 2 jobs, skipping meals, falling asleep in libraries. I thought it was just bad luck. But no, it was because they'd stolen my chance to breathe and handed it to Maddie like a gift. Dad came home mid-confrontation. He looked at me, at the papers in my hand, then at Mom. His face crumpled. She found out, Nancy, he muttered. Found out what? I snapped. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. The first time I'd ever seen him cry. I didn't want to do it, Kayla. But your mother said Maddie needed a head start. You'd understand. Understand. The word echoed through me like an insult. I stood there, staring at both of them, the people who were supposed to protect me, love me equally, and all I could think was they didn't just choose her over me, they planned it. Maddie walked in then, holding an iced coffee, oblivious. What's going on? I turned to her, my voice trembling. You knew about the college fund? Her face fell. Wait, what? Mom snapped, don't drag your sister into this. But I wasn't dragging her. I was pulling her down into the truth. Maddie, the car Dad bought you, it came from my college money. She went pale. What? No, Mom said. Mom said what? I demanded. Mom slammed her hands on the counter. Enough. You always think the world's against you. You had everything you needed. Maddie just needed more help. For a second, no one breathed. The air was thick with something dark, old, and poisonous. Favoritism stripped bare. I dropped the papers on the counter and whispered, you didn't raise 2 daughters. You raised 1 favorite and 1 fallback. Then I turned and walked out the door. I didn't cry until I hit the driveway, when I saw the Corolla still parked there, gleaming in the sun, my stolen future reflected in its windshield. But I wasn't done yet, because that night I got a text from Maddie. Kayla, please don't hate me. There's something you don't know. Mom's been hiding more than that. And that's when I realized the real secret hadn't even come out yet. I stared at Maddie's text for what felt like forever. Mom's been hiding more than that. My pulse thudded in my ears. I wanted to ignore it, to block her, but curiosity and anger are a dangerous mix, and they were both clawing at my chest. I typed back, what are you talking about? The reply came instantly. Not over text, meet me tonight. At Dad's old garage. My stomach flipped. The garage, that place was like a time capsule from our childhood. Dusty tools, oil stains, our bikes still hanging from the rafters. Dad used to call it his escape. So at 9 p.m., I drove there, headlights cutting through the cold dark. The house looked the same from the outside, peaceful, ordinary, innocent, but the second I stepped into that garage, the air felt heavy, like the truth had been waiting there too long. Maddie was sitting on an overturned crate, her face pale, eyes red. She wasn't her usual perfect self. No makeup, no confidence. Just broken. Kayla, she whispered, standing up. I didn't know about the college fund. I swear. I folded my arms. Then what did you mean by thick, Mom's hiding more? She hesitated, biting her lip. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out an old, crumpled envelope. I found this in her closet last week. It's about you. I took it. My name was on it. Again, in Mom's handwriting. The paper was yellowed, the corners worn. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a letter. No date, just the words. To the agency, regarding Kayla, we've decided not to pursue further contact. Please keep this matter confidential. We're grateful for your understanding. I blinked. Agency? Maddie nodded. Keep reading. My throat went dry as I unfolded the second page, an old document. It had a seal at the top. State of Michigan, Department of Child and Family Services. And then, in the middle of the page, under placement approval, it said, applicant child, Kayla last name redacted for privacy. Placement approved for Nancy and Robert surname. My knees almost gave out. This isn't real. Maddie's voice shook. It is, you were adopted, Kayla. I felt the world tilt, everything blurred, the garage walls, the buzzing light, her face, adopted. No, my whole life I'd been told I was their firstborn miracle. Mom used to brag about how hard her labor was with me, how I looked just like her. I laughed. A sharp, broken sound. You're lying. I wish I was. Maddie stepped closer. I confronted Mom after I found it. She said she never told you because she didn't want you to feel different, but she treated you different anyway, Kayla. My chest heaved. So all this time, the favoritism, the distance, it wasn't just because I wasn't good enough. It's because I wasn't hers. Maddie started crying. She said she thought you'd leave if you ever found out, that you'd hate her. Oh, don't worry, I snapped, my voice breaking. I think she got her wish. I turned away, trying to breathe. The air felt poisoned. My life, my identity, everything I thought I knew was just gone. But then Maddie said something that made the air go even colder. She also said the adoption wasn't supposed to happen. I froze. What do you mean? Maddie looked terrified now. She said your biological mother came back a few months after they got you and tried to reclaim you, but Mom refused. She paid someone to make sure the claim got buried. I stared at her, my heart pounding. You're saying Mom bribed someone? She nodded, trembling. I didn't believe it at first, but then I found a box of receipts and letters from that same agency. They stopped sending follow-ups after that year. A wave of nausea hit me. So, I was taken from someone who wanted me? The silence after that was deafening. Outside, the wind picked up, howling against the thin garage door. Maddie tried to reach for me, but I stepped back. Why are you telling me this now? Because, she whispered. I think that woman's been trying to reach you again. I blinked. What? Maddie opened her phone, showing me an email. An old one, from a few weeks ago. Subject, looking for my daughter Kayla. The sender's name, Margaret R. My voice barely came out. You replied? She shook her head. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to tell you, but Mom said she'd been handle it, and that was 2 weeks ago. The room spun. Handle it how? Maddie's face twisted with fear. She deleted the emails, Kayla, and she blocked the woman's number. Something deep inside me snapped. I stormed out of the garage, dialing Mom's number with shaking hands. Straight to voicemail. I tried again, nothing. Then I saw it. Her car parked at the top of the hill, headlights off, engine running. She'd been watching us. I turned to Maddie, whispering, she knew we'd meet here. Maddie's eyes widened. And before we could say another word, the headlights flared, blinding white, cutting through the night, and the car started rolling toward us. Fast? Too fast. Maddie screamed. And for a second, I wasn't sure if my mother was trying to scare us or kill us. The blinding headlights froze me in place. My pulse hammered in my throat as the car barreled down the gravel driveway. It wasn't slowing down. Maddie grabbed my arm and screamed, Kayla, move. We dove behind a rusted tool cabinet just as the tires screeched. The car stopped inches from the garage door. For a second, there was only silence. The engine rumbling low, the headlights casting harsh shadows across the cracked floor. Then the driver's side door opened. Mom stepped out, calm, controlled, her face half lit by the glow of the dashboard. What are you doing here? She said, voice cold as steel. Both of you. I stood slowly, fury and fear tangling in my chest. You tell me, why were you sitting out there watching us? I wasn't watching, she said flatly. I was waiting. For what? I shot back. She glanced at Maddie. For this mistake to stop. Maddie's voice shook. Mom, she knows about the adoption, about the agency. Something flickered in Mom's eyes, panic, then calculation. Oh, for God's sake, Maddie, you've always been dramatic. She found the papers. Maddie yelled. I saw them too. Mom's mask cracked for a split second. Then she sighed like we were inconveniencing her. You were never supposed to see those. You don't understand how things were back then. No, I snapped, stepping closer. You're going to make me understand right now. Mom looked me straight in the eye. You were never meant to stay with us, Kayla, but your birth mother was unstable. We were trying to protect you. My stomach turned. Protect me? By lying to me my whole life? She flinched but kept her composure. We gave you everything. A home, a name, love. You gave me conditions. I spat. You gave me silence. You gave Maddie everything while you treated me like a guest in my own life. Maddie stepped forward, tears running down her face. You used her, Mom. You used her college money for me. You lied to both of us. Mom's eyes went dark, the kind of cold that doesn't blink. You needed help, Maddie. You always have. Kayla doesn't. She's strong. She survives. I took another step, my hands shaking. You didn't make me strong, Mom. You just left me no choice. For the first time, she looked scared. Kayla, please, don't do this. Don't dig into the past. It's over. But something in me had snapped too deep to stop. Who was she? I demanded. Who was my mother? She looked at the floor. It doesn't matter. It matters to me, I shouted. You stole my life to make yourself feel like a savior. You couldn't even love me without guilt, could you? Her hand trembled as she whispered. You were never supposed to find out. I stared at her. Then why were you watching us tonight? She hesitated. To make sure you didn't destroy this family. I laughed bitterly. You already did that years ago. Then, out of nowhere, Maddie's voice cracked through the air. Wait, you said you were protecting her. From what? Mom went still. Her jaw tightened. Your birth mother, she came back. She wanted custody. We couldn't risk losing you, Kayla. We couldn't. My heart twisted. So you? What? Paid her off? Her silence was my answer. Maddie whispered, horrified. You bought her? Mom's eyes darted between us. You don't understand. She would have ruined everything. I felt the floor tilt again. She was my mother. And then, as if the world decided it had heard enough, there was a sound, a faint crackle. Smoke. Maddie turned toward the back wall. One of the oil rags near the space heater had caught fire, a small flicker of orange licking up the wood panel. Mom's voice dropped. We need to leave. But I couldn't move. Not yet. Tell me her name, I said, right now. Mom's eyes glistened. Margaret, her name was Margaret Reynolds. The name hit me like lightning. Margaret, the woman from the emails. She found me, I whispered. She's alive. Mom's face twisted with guilt. You can't trust her. She'll poison you against us. I took a step closer, smoke thickening in the air. You already did that yourself. The fire spread fast, wood crackling, flames reflecting in our eyes. Maddie grabbed my wrist. Kayla, we have to go. Mom lunged forward, desperate. Kayla, please, don't walk away from this family. I looked at her one last time, every memory flashing like glass shattering in my mind. The birthdays she forgot, the hospital bills she ignored, the way she called Maddie, baby and me, sweetheart like it was a title for the help. You didn't lose me tonight, I said quietly. You lost me years ago. Then I turned and ran. Maddie was right behind me as the flames roared higher, swallowing the garage in a wave of orange and smoke. Behind us, through the heat and the chaos, I heard my mother's voice, one last time, faint, trembling, almost human. Kayla, please. But I didn't look back. Because that night wasn't just the night everything burned. It was the night I finally stopped trying to be their daughter and started being my own.